Welcome to Behind the Story. The coronavirus pandemic has brought about a massive increase in global poverty this year. According to the World Bank, this year up to 115 million people have been pushed into extreme poverty. So what can Catholics do to help this Christmas season? Joining me today to discuss that question is Dr. Marco Impagliazzo. He's the president of the Sant'Egidio community. Welcome to Behind the Story, Marco.
Thank you.
Marco, just to start us off, could you explain briefly what Sant'Egidio does?
Yes, Sant'Egidio was born, is a community, Catholic community born 52 years ago from the dream of a student at the time, Andrea Riccardi. It was the dream of being able to live the gospel in our everyday life as young people, ordinary people, praying together and serving the poor. I know that this seems a very broad summary, but it is true. The beginning of our community are those of a small group of students who wanted to live their Christian life seriously. Of course, today, a bit more structured than at the beginning. And when I say a bit, I mean a lot more. Prayer, poor, and peace are the three P's Pope Francis used to describe the Sant'Egidio. This is very important for us. Prayer, poor, and peace.
I want to ask you about the second P there, the poor. How has the coronavirus pandemic affected Sant'Egidio's ability to minister to the poor?
Well, let me first of all begin with the pandemic itself. We have all been affected. We have all suffered a lot. However, those who have been hit harder by the pandemic itself and by the ensuing economic and social consequences have been the poorest, the vulnerable. Think about it. During lockdown, we have been at home. We were suffering because our freedom was in some way hindered. But what about the homeless who have no home, who live on the street, that are empty and normally live on alms? No people, no shops open. In many cases, it did mean real hunger. Even in our developed worlds, need has grown dramatically among the poorest. But also think about the elderly people in the nursing homes who have been stranded, and many of them still are, plagued by the virus, but also tormented by loneliness and isolation. So this is what I have seen in this pandemic related to the poor.
And how about Sant'Egidio's ability to minister to the poor? You know, have you had a shortage of volunteers, for example, or a shortage of maybe material goods to be able to give to people?
I understand the question. It might appear that the virus, with its evil power, would force people to close themselves, would force them to think only about themselves. Well, it has not been so.
Good.
Fortunately, there has been a growing number of people here, maybe in Rome, but also in New York and in other cities of the world, who have approached Sant'Egidio asking the way they could help. The number of volunteers has grown, not diminished. And among them, a lot of young people, students. This is a very encouraging news for our world.
Yeah, certainly. I wonder what the pandemic has revealed to you about our treatment of the poor. Maybe what lessons you've learned about the way we treat the poor, and what lessons you think that the church should pay attention to.
Yes, it is just a continuation of my previous answers. We have seen that, as Pope Francis has been saying, we are really living on the same boat. the life of one is strongly connected to that of all the others. You remember Pope Francis on the 27th of March this year, no, speaking in the St. Peter's Square.
Mm-hmm.
And we are in the same boat, all of us fragile and disoriented, all of us called to row together, each of us in need of comforting the other. For me, these words are very, very precious. I think that is a lesson that the Church has given to the world in this day from St. Peter's Square.
It was such a moving and powerful lesson. I mean, I've thought about that so many times, over the course of this year. You mentioned Pope Francis. I want to ask you about him because you two work closely together sometimes. What leadership have you seen from him on global poverty during this pandemic?
I think Pope Francis has been very often alone in this period. He's maybe the only leader in our world confronting the great evil of this pandemic. Let me quote something that touched me very much. During the Mass with the new cardinals 3 weeks ago, the Pope said, I quote, staying awake is not easy. It is really quite hard. At night, it is natural to sleep. Even Jesus' disciples did not manage to stay awake, but that some drowsiness can also overtake us. There is a dangerous kind of sleep. It is the slumber of mediocrity. We become mediocre, lukewarm, worldly, and this is slowly eats away at our faith, for faith is the very opposite of mediocrity. It is ardent desire for God, a bold effort to change, the courage to love, constant progress. Faith is not water that extinguishes flames. It is fire that burns. It is not a tranquilizer for people under stress. It is a love story for people in love. Very nice. It is a love story for people in love. That is why Jesus, above all else, detests lukewarmness. God clearly disdains the lukewarm. End of quote. For me, these may appear harsh words, but we can see in them the summary of Pope Francis' attitude during the pandemic. We cannot be lukewarm in front of the growing poverty, in front of the tragedy of so many people who die. We must have the courage of going there where we might not want to go, to be wounded by pains that we had rather not feel, to be made dirty by grime we would like to avoid.
That's very...
It is a call that we in Sant'Egidio feels strongly, and that I believe it is true for all the church and all Christians. I would dare to say for all believers.
I want to ask you about Christmas time, because that's a really important time for the Sant'Egidio community. Could you tell us what the community usually does for Christmas and how that might be altered this year by the pandemic?
Yes, you are right. It has been a tradition for many years now, 38, I think, the Christmas lunches that are in a way of trademark of Sant'Egidio. The feast with the poor and marginals. COVID makes it impossible to do it in a closed space. We cannot eat together, for example, because of the restrictions. But it is enough to be a bit imaginative, and we can still make it a great day for feast for all. If the poor cannot come to us, well, we can surely go to them. So we have begun already some weeks ago to prepare gifts that will be brought to the houses on the street and distributed. On the 23rd, 24th, 25th and 31st, we will bring food as well. Thousands of volunteers all over the world, in the US, in Italy, in Germany, in Indonesia, in Ivory Coast, in Mozambique, in this Christmas is in exit. We are in exit. This will all be done with the total respect of anti-COVID measures, because we know that the virus can kill and can hurt a lot. It is a sense of responsibility towards our poorest and weaker brothers and sisters, but also towards ourselves.
And what can Catholics or all believers, like you mentioned before, do to help this Christmas?
Yes. Well, first of all, I think we should all try to live this time as a possibility of something new beginning. We are too much tied and to the habits of our life, and sometimes we forget the coming of Jesus is an announcement of something new happening in the world. We need to seek him like the shepherds, like the Magi. It is a personal step. Let us live this day as the beginning of a new path for me and for our communities. But also, let us not leave them alone. We must find Jesus. This is very true in our experience. Listen to cry of the poor. The Pope said recently, if we do not want to live poorly, we ask for the grace to see Jesus in the poor, to serve Jesus in the poor. That is an answer for me for this Christmas. In our experience, service to the poor and prayer goes always together. This is our experience, for example, in New York. We pray in New York in the Church of the Epiphany, in the 2nd Avenue, close to 22nd Street, at every Friday at 6:30 p.m. Is an example. In Santa Maria in Trastevere here in Rome, we pray every night, and we are online with some different translations. So it's important to have these two pillars together: prayer and service to the poor.
Marco, we're so grateful for everything that you and the community are doing for the poor, especially in this time of pandemic. We're really grateful for your work. If our viewers want to learn more about Sant'Egidio, they can visit sant'egidio.org, and there's a lot more information there. Marco, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate talking to you today.
Thank you.
For more coverage of global poverty, visit americamagazine.org. And for more videos like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel. For American Media, I'm Colleen Dulle, and this is Behind the Story. Thanks for watching.